Hello and welcome back to Eye on Iowa. I'm Sarah Mueller, a reporter with Forbes, and today I am joined by Larry Elder, who has since suspended his campaign for president, and you've endorsed Donald Trump. Tell me a little bit about what went into this decision.
Well, the campaign had issues from the very beginning, as you know, Sarah, because the RNC would not allow me on that first debate. I met all their criteria, one of which was I had to have 40,000 individual donors. I did. The other is I had to have at least three polls where I was at 1% or better, and I did. I turn all that in before the deadline. I get a phone call from Ronna McDaniel and Dave Bossy, the debate czar, and they tell me, I'm sorry, one of the polls you submitted, you can't use because it is, quote, affiliated with Trump. And it is true that the rules stipulate any poll affiliated with any candidate cannot be used by any other candidate. However, after this, Rasmussen puts out a statement and said, I'm sorry, we're not affiliated with Trump. There's no reason why Elder can't use us. We submitted a fourth one, and she said, you submitted it too late, which is true. However, I didn't realize I needed to submit another one, A and B. That poll had been concluded before the deadline, so there was enough wiggle room that they could have put me up there had they wanted to, but I wasn't. We filed a complaint with the Federal Elections Commission. That's going to take years to adjudicate. In the meantime, if you're not on the first debate, how in the world can you get 3% to qualify for the second debate, let alone the 4% to qualify for the next debate coming up next week? So I'm being realistic. It doesn't look as if I'm going to be able to get the poll numbers and raise the kind of money it takes to run a credible campaign. I've always run as a mega guy. And when I was asked, if you're a mega guy, why is it you're running against Trump? To which I'd always say, as you know, I'm not running against Trump. I'm running against Biden Harris. And there's some issues that nobody is talking about that we need to start talking about. And if I can get people talking about the epidemic of fatherlessness, the acute need for school choice in urban America, where, for example, there are 13 public high schools in Baltimore, all located in the inner city, where 0% of the kids can do math at grade level, and a much stronger denunciation of the Democrat narrative that America remains systemically racist because it's getting people killed. Cops are pulling back all over the country because they're intimidated, because they've been accused of being systemically racist. They're not engaging in proactive policing. In the last several years, there are thousands of people who are dead who otherwise would be alive, but for the police pulling back. So if I can get people talking about those issues, I've done my job. Fast forward, I'm invited to a private meeting with you know who at Mar-a-Lago, and this is a few days ago, Sarah, and I'm in his office, and I'm telling him I'm going to suspend my campaign and I'm going to endorse him. He says, when are you going to make the announcement? I said, I don't know, in the next few days. He was having a fundraiser within a few hours. He said, how about now? Why don't we go downstairs and you make the announcement at the fundraiser? So I did. And that was the reaction. And so I'm very happy with what I did. I'm proud to have run credibly for president. Not very many people can do that. And we've gotten a lot of issues that people are talking about now that they weren't talking about before.
You said that you've talked to Donald Trump about endorsing him, and obviously he convinced you to go and endorse him right then and there. Tell me a little bit about your guys' relationship and how you plan on supporting him going forward.
Well, I've known him for a long time. Not, I can't say I've known him closely, but I've known him for a long time. And I supported him in 2016. We campaigned together in Cleveland. I particularly remember a instance where we campaigned at a Black church. And he talked about families and the need for school choice. It was very, very powerful. And I knew he was going to do better than the average Republican does as to the Black vote. And he did. He got around 8% in 2016. He got 12% in 2020, a 50% increase, and about 20% of Black males voted for him. So we've gone back for some time. I've always supported him on radio. As I said, I like what he did on borders. I like what he did on judges. I like what he did on the economy, on school choice, on enterprise zones. I thought he was and is an extraordinary man who will be an extraordinary president once he gets back into office.
Now, obviously, he's been in and out of the courtroom the past couple of months. How do you think that's going to impact his campaign?
Well, it's going to take time away from the campaign, obviously. You can't be in two places at once. But will it hurt him in the nomination process? No, not at all. If anything, people feel he's being victimized, being persecuted. So it's going to help him with the base. It probably won't be helpful for independent voters. But when you look at the recent polls, Biden has never been less popular. And Biden is down on the economy. He's down on borders. He's down on gas. And people are paying hundreds of dollars a month more for what they paid for just a few years ago. So all of a sudden now Donald Trump's polling numbers in swing states look better than they've looked in a long time. So I believe that if Biden is the nominee, Trump wins handily. And if Biden is not the nominee, he beats Kamala Harris handily, because she will be the nominee if Biden is not.
Tell me what you think a ticket would look like for Donald Trump. Obviously, Pence has suspended his campaign. Who do you think he should pick as his VP? Who do you think would maybe make good nominations for the cabinet?
I wouldn't pretend to give the man advice. He keeps his own counsel. My suspicion, however, it will be a female, because his Achilles heel are females, college educated in the suburbs. And I think he will perceive himself politically to be advantaged if he has a female running mate. Beyond that, I have no idea. He said recently, when somebody asked him if he saw any vice presidential running mate on the debate stage, he said no. One of those up there was Nikki Haley. So assuming he's going to stick to that, I guess she's not on the list. Maybe the governor of Iowa, Kim Reynolds. She's very attractive. She won her reelection by 20 points, as did Ron DeSantis. But because it's Iowa, nobody paid that much attention to it. But she's very, very popular there. She's cut taxes substantially. She's put into place statewide school choice. So it seems to me she checks all the boxes for the kind of conservative Republican that you want. But I really don't.
As an Iowan myself, and as somebody who's followed Governor Reynolds' campaign for a long time, I can also attest that she has an interesting track record for the GOP. Now, looking at your future, will you ever consider looking at another office to run for, maybe in California?
Well, speaking of California, may I hold up my new book? It comes out. It comes out November 7. As you can see, it's called "As Goes California: My Mission to Rescue the Golden State and Save the Nation," and it's about what one-party rule has done here in California. Democrats have dominated both chambers of our legislature, the Senate and the Assembly, for decades. People like Gavin Newsom have been elected, and as a result, people are leaving California for the very first time in 170 years. We've had a net population outflow of almost 500,000 people, and the primary reason that people leave, as they say, is the cost of living. They can't afford a home. The average price of a home in California is about 175% above national average, largely because Democrats are in bed with the environmentalists, and for reasons that are all over the place. They don't want to allow any kind of construction. So there are millions of housing units that would otherwise have been built had it not been for the power that environmentalists have in stopping any kind of construction here in California. Gavin Newsom has banned the sale of new gasoline-powered cars by 2035. He has supported soft-on-crime policies like Proposition 57 that says that no longer is rape of an intoxicated victim a violent crime. It's now a non-violent offense. I kid you not. Assault on a police officer is now a non-violent offense. Serial arson is now a non-violent offense. Gavin Newsom set up a panel for reparations. He set up a commission to determine that a third party is going to determine the wages for fast food workers. You name the brain dead policy, and he's backing. One recent one, Sarah, you like this one. If I asked you what is the purpose behind an Amber Alert, you would say, well, it's to let people know that a child is missing. What's the purpose behind an Ebony Alert? Gavin Newsom just signed a bill for an Ebony Alert because obviously Amber Alerts are just for white kids. And we want to make sure that when a Black kid is missing, people know it's a Black kid. So therefore, we now have Amber and Ebony Alerts. I kid you not. This is the identity policy, race conscious Democrat Party that we've had here in California now for decades.
Now, if I understand correctly, Ebony Alert also has a different age range attached to it as well, and it does include young adults over the age of 18. So it is slightly different from an Amber Alert, just that we've had lots of coverage of that in the last couple of weeks. Now, I want to...
Why in the world, Sarah, why in the world do we have to have a special alert for Black people? Why? You're implying that you don't care about Black people, so therefore you're going to have the racist authorities focus on Black people when these racist authorities otherwise would not, as opposed to firing the racist authorities if in fact they're racist. It's just ridiculous. It's as ridiculous as reparations. California wasn't even a slave state, and reparations is the extraction of money from people who were never slave owners to be given to people who were never slaves. It's the same deal. Gavin Newsom also signed a bill that requires publicly held corporations to have at least one member of the LGBTQIA plus community on their board of directors. It's clearly a violation of the 14th Amendment, yet he did it anyway.
Now, you clearly still have strong feelings about how Governor Newsom has run the state of California. Does this mean you would consider trying to run against him again?
Boy, Sarah, you always ask the question. If you don't get the answer, you're going to ask it another way. I love that. I don't know. I'm 71 years old. I guess that's young now for politicians these days. I'm still energetic, but it's ruling in California. A Republican has not won statewide in 20 years. Now, we did have a recall of a Democrat governor back in 2003 when Arnold Schwarzenegger took over, but since then, there are now 5% more registered Democrats. There are 50% more registered independents. And in California, even the New York Times said independents vote Democrat. There were 33% fewer registered Republicans. So the battlefield is daunting to run a statewide campaign and win. So I'm not at all sure that I have the energy and desire to put my hand in a garbage disposal like that and suffer the adverse effects.
What about a smaller garbage disposal? I hate using that analogy, but I mean, what about a House seat, maybe even a state seat?
Well, for now, I'm going to be pushing a political action committee called Enforce the Law to get rid of these soft on crime George Soros-backed DAs. And they're all over the place, in San Francisco, in Chicago, in New York, even in Des Moines. And as a result, people are not being prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. There are bad people who are out in the streets who otherwise shouldn't be out there. So I'm going to be doing that in the short term. It's called Enforce the Law Act. And I'll be raising money to do that, hoping to get some of the other candidates, including President Trump, to back that. And then, of course, I'll be promoting my book, as I said, called As Goes California. It comes out on November the 7th.
You've got a lot coming up. You've got, obviously, your support for Donald Trump. You've got your upcoming book. You got maybe another opportunity to run again in California and this action committee as well. I got to know, though, before I let you go, you've been on the campaign trail with all of these candidates. You have, you've gone up against them. What do you think Donald Trump needs to do to essentially make sure he gets those moderate voters, make sure that he's appealing to them as a lot of these other candidates are trying to as well?
I'm not sure there's anything more that Donald Trump can do that he hasn't already done. He has 100% name recognition. Everybody's got an opinion on him. The handful of so-called swing voters have probably already decided what they want to do. And no matter what you say, it still comes down to the economy. Is the economy stupid? And people do not feel better off than they felt a few years ago on gas prices, on their wages that are being eaten away by inflation, on interest rates now for houses. So I think that all Donald Trump has to do is say, weren't you better off when I was president? Weren't you better off when there weren't 8 to 10 million legal aliens in this country? Weren't you better off when we were energy independent? Weren't you better off when I delivered the best economy ever? I think if Donald Trump simply says that, he's going to be just fine.
Larry Elder, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate it. God bless.